Hello, my name is ZAK ABEL, and I am this week's Man of the Hour. In this episode, we spoke about music, we spoke about mental health, we spoke about family, we spoke about not giving up, and just generally had a good time. And I hope you like it, I hope you enjoy it, and have a great day.
ZAK ABEL is here. Dude. I'm so happy you said yes. Freedom's off the charts. Everybody's listening to it. It's like, and as a pop music fanatic myself, ZAK, this is a song that gives people just such good vibes. So we'll start there in just a second, but I do want to tell you, thank you, ZAK ABEL, for saying yes to coming onto this podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I want to know your thoughts before we're going to talk about Freedom, the song, Freedom, probably in general, that you know, and then a lot about music, your history with it, your love, your life for music. This is the month of musicians. It's September 2021. And, you know, I think people always resonate with music because it's the universal love language, you know what I mean? But, dude, for starters, where did music all start for you? And kind of give us some background, because now, I mean, you're performing with Kygo in fucking Poland. Like, how does that happen, right? So where did it all start with you, ZAK?
So I started writing songs when I was about 14. I was kind of deciding whether or not I should go to one school or another school, and I found the whole thing quite overwhelming. And so I decided to write a song about it. The song was called Haze, and it was because I felt like a bit overwhelmed mentally with the decision, and I felt as though mentally I was in a bit of a haze. And so yeah, I wrote about that, and I found the whole thing really cathartic, and I guess I got the bug from there. And yeah, just been writing ever since.
Then music, though, for you now, how old are you now?
I'm 26.
Right? So this is like 12 years later. I mean, when you get to a point now that you're starting to meet some pretty big musicians, this is actually a personal question off the record, but on the record because we're recording. But I wanted to ask you, dude, when you start meeting people like Kygo and you're backstage at certain concerts, you'll probably do something with the Backstreet Boys soon. Like, who knows, right? You never know what happens in music and who you have the opportunity to collaborate with, right? Because your management team, you know, Joe and everybody, they're just so good. And I think that there is some beauty in being able to connect with and collaborate with a bunch of big stars. But as that's starting to happen for you now, 12 years later, where does that put you mentally as an artist?
In a good place. I think it's a nice feeling knowing that, you know, someone as successful and as talented as Kygo is willing to do a track with me. I think that is, like, from a confidence point of view, really, really validating. And you know, when you come home from the studio and you hear you know, a version that Kygo's done of your song, it's an amazing feeling. You're like, damn, I can actually write a song and sing a song that someone of that level is happy to put out.
Dang. What are you looking forward to? I'm always interested to ask. I mean, I think that as a musician, you guys are in the studio all the time. I keep hearing this thing with like Charlie Puth and all these other guys that we're trying to bring on the show that they're in recording sessions or they're in studio time. Is it always that you guys have, you know, punch marks of elongated time that you're just in a studio working on like a session or an album and getting creative, and then maybe you'll have 2 months after that where you're freebeing it? Or what's that like for you, at least in terms of like the creative process and getting in the studio?
For me, I'm always kind of in and out of writing and recording sessions. I like to keep that muscle like alive. You know, some people like to have complete breaks from writing, and then they go and do like a really intense period of, like, I don't know, 2 to 4 months or so in like Jamaica or something. I've never done that. I've always been kind of like, you know, can we fit in a writing session 2 days here and then maybe 2 days here. Even like when I finished my first album, I was still writing for like the year afterwards.
Dang. No, I think it's like a nonstop thing, wouldn't you say? You constantly have to be thinking about things. How do
Yeah.
you get creative though, as a musician? Do you go on a hike and you're starting to think about the next song? Do you have life experiences that then turn into songs? What's that creative process like for you?
Most of my songs are from personal life experience. I think it's really important to try to stay on the lookout for song ideas. So even in this conversation we're having right now, maybe you'll say something and I'm like, damn, that'd be a good idea for a song. Like that's a cool title, and then you go from there. I think it's also really important to like watch movies and
Oh
listen to
yeah.
podcasts and read books and stuff. Like I tried to, well, actually I listened to books on audiobook,
Mm,
but I tried to read every day and you know constantly be having an influx of ideas,
I love that.
because yeah, there's nothing worse than going into a writing session and not knowing what you want to talk about, especially when you're with really talented other writers
Yeah, you don't want to
or
waste that
producers.
session away.
Exactly.
I love that. Zach, what you said, movie, podcast, and book. Can you, as a musician, give us the last, not last, but the latest movie, podcast, and book that you'd watched and listened to? What are those? What are those last three for you? Because I think as an artist, I mean, listen, maybe me asking you that's the next single that you're going to put out. Who knows? And I would be very happy to be a co-writer. I don't even know how to write music, but we'll figure out how to do that later. What was the last movie you watched, podcast you listened to, and audiobook that you listened to?
Okay, so we'll start in reverse. So right now I'm listening to Shogun, which is a really, really long book. It's by James Clavell. Yes, James Clavell. And it's about this English guy who he's got a ship. He's a pilot of a ship, and he ends up in Japan, and it's about his experiences
Hey,
there, which is
nice.
really cool. I really, really like all things Japanese.
I'm half Japanese, so we'll probably be
Oh,
friends.
congratulations! That's awesome. Yeah, it's an awesome book. I really like it. I like to mix it up between like fiction and nonfiction. Like sometimes I'll
Mm,
just listen to nonfiction, then I'm like, oh, this is really boring. I don't have to implement any of these things
mm.
that are, that I'm being educated on. I want to listen to some fiction and just like zone out and
Oh
imagine
yeah,
something else. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. Podcast wise, I really like Sam Harris's podcast,
yeah.
Making Sense. I kind of, yeah, like I think he says some really interesting stuff about whether it's politics or religion and stuff like that. I'm always interested to see his take
Mm.
on things, and also about meditation. He talks a lot about, and
Oh nice.
yeah, with me, I'm really into like mindfulness and
Oh yeah.
on the mental health side. And so I found his meditation app pretty useful as well. And then movies wise, I watched a movie called Munich a couple of days ago, which was a Steven Spielberg movie, and it was about the like terrorist attack at the Olympics on the Israeli athletes, and that was pretty good as well.
You're so cool, dude. Like so cool.
I don't think
I
so.
love how you said
But I appreciate it.
congratulations. Dude, congratulations on freedom. I want to talk about that for a moment. What
Sure.
was like between the time that you wrote and released it to the time that Kygo had, I would say, remixed and did his thing to it? What was that time frame?
Um, one day.
No,
It was
he
crazy.
picked it
Yeah.
up that quickly.
I wrote it in Sweden with two other people, a guy called Laurie Martin, who I write with a lot. I wrote Unstable with him, um, The Power with Duke Dumont. I wrote that with Laurie, and loads of tracks. We write together all the time. So I was with him and a guy called Sandro Cavazza. Um,
Mm,
and I was in Sweden because there was the Avicii tribute concert, and I had a song with Avicii, and so I was there to honor and celebrate his life. It was like a one-off show in Sweden, and so yeah, did like a week's writing after that show, and Freedom was written within that week. And it was about 8 o'clock at night, and we'd already written one song. And the guy whose studio it was, he had to go for a bowling trip. It was his mate's birthday, like a bowling party. And he's like, I got to go. And we were like, can we use the studio? And he was like, yeah, okay. So he let us stay. And that night we wrote Freedom. I think I did the vocal at like 2 a.m. I was so tired by the end of it. But yeah, we got it down. And the demo vocal is the same vocal that's on the track. I would have written it like a few minutes before. And yeah, then Sandro's friends with Kygo, and so he sent him the song. And literally the next day we had a version. It's the quickest turnaround I've ever had for a song.
How cool is that? And then it's probably the song that's going to take you to the moon and back. Do you think that that's going to be the case? This is such a big hit, dude. I swear. I'd play it right now, but maybe the management team will like copyright it or something. I don't know how music works. Listen, it's so weird how music is nowadays. I could probably play a little bit of it right now on this podcast recording, and then I realized really quickly that it's not my song. So anyway, do you think this is going to be it? I think it is. I think this could skyrocket you, and it's not a one-hit wonder situation, Zach. I think this could be something that takes you up and keeps you up.
Thanks, man. I mean, it's a pretty crazy day for writing, actually. So on that same day, I wrote a song called "Less of a Man," which is the song which is coming out on the 10th of September.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is
so we're airing
a song. Episode. Oh, nice. Which is like a song which I'm really, really excited about. Nice. Because I feel like it is a pop song, but it's really meaningful to me anyway. And I think it could be meaningful to other people as well.
That's amazing. So let's say this is September 13th. I like talking as if we're in the future. And because I plan the show, I can say right today, if you're listening right now, it is Monday, September 13th. And ZAK ABEL released Less of a Man last Friday, September 10th. So where was the revolution in that? This is called Men of the Hour. Essentially, it's because you guys are all guys, and I like telling your narratives to inspire people. But where did this song come to life with? I want to talk about it for a second.
The song was inspired by, I suppose, me growing up, not really feeling as though I was in quotations, manly man. I think, just growing up, I've always been very sensitive. I started puberty pretty late, so like I've never been like the hairiest dude.
Well, you're lucky, dude. Trust me, it came too fast for my brother and I. I've never really associated with that kind of stereotypical male image, and I wanted to write about that and how I don't think that there is necessarily one way to be a man. There are many, many ways in which a man can be a man. And I think that, for a long time, that kind of image of what a man should be was quite harmful for me. And I know it has been for other guys, growing up. And, there's a lot of, we'll go quite deep, but there's a lot of suicide. Men killing themselves because they don't feel as though, I suppose we don't know the exact reasons, but maybe they don't feel as though they can talk about their emotions and open up about how they're actually feeling and ask for help. And because they feel they have to man up and take charge of the situation. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place for like self-responsibility and being able to handle your stuff yourself, But at the same time, there's also a time to ask for help and take guidance from other people. And I feel like definitely growing up, there was this pressure that I felt I had on my shoulders of, man up and stop being such a baby about it. And so, that was the inspiration behind the song. That's great. It's great that you were able to like get past that too. I think a lot of guys, we often talk about there's so many different types of masculinity.
100%.
And it's nice to see, people in the business like Justin Baldoni launched a podcast around this. There's many books out there about this as well. Just in general, I think that there's a societal pressure period for like any type of person nowadays. You know, singer
Mm.
songwriter like yourself, half Asian, you know, biracial like myself, and it's like, okay, well, where's all this pressure actually coming from? Where did you feel the pressure over the years? Like in terms, was it your family, your friends, social media? You know, where did you feel like, holy shit, I don't feel like I'm a man enough because, you know, I'm seeing or hearing these certain things.
I think it was probably from seeing other boys like my age, and kind of looking at how they were.
Mm,
And I think, as human beings, we like to categorize
always.
people and things. It helps us make sense of the world. So I think there's definitely kind of like a natural element to it as well. Like
I think
we're
you're
like,
right.
oh, people seem like men seem to be this way, generally speaking. So one should be this way, and I don't think that is necessarily good. I think so. Yeah. Firstly, just the status, like however people are, the expectation is for things to carry on in that way. The second
Mm,
thing is definitely like in movies, we have this like archetypal male figure that pops up. The main characters, like main male characters in movies, they are a certain way,
oh yeah.
and I think lots of things affect how we perceive a man to be in our heads. And don't get me wrong, like not all like masculinity is bad.
Right,
Um,
right.
I think the term toxic masculinity can be like misunderstood sometimes, because it's like, no, masculinity isn't bad. It's just sometimes, you can be like, it can help, it can hinder you from acting any other ways outside of the typical masculinity. Can people see this, or is it just audio, by the way?
Oh, I should have told you we're on video too. It's a good thing.
We're on video. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm
Just don't
doing
pick your nose. We'll be
quotation.
good.
Yeah, I'm doing quotations every time there's this like typical man phrase comes up.
I
Um,
yeah, I respect that you even said that, because I think a lot of times today the answer, the reason I asked you that too is because I'm getting the answer. It's okay to lean in and to tap into certain areas. Here I go with the air quotes. Now you got me, Zach. It's
mhm,
okay to
mhm,
tap into certain areas of your masculinity, or like to swing on different spectrums of what it means to you to be a man, you know, and I think that's very valuable for people to understand. It's not like you're going to wake up every day the same person, and you should also look at your
mhm,
masculinity or your femininity or however you want to live your life. You should look at that as a spectrum on like what your day looks like you had said, maybe you were a little emotional and like the guys in your classroom might not have been, or you may go to a recording session tomorrow and the people who are with you are quite aggressive men and they act a little different when they're producing music, but like it's okay to have like a gentle type of yourself. And yeah, I would call it like shape shifting, to be honest with you. And I think that goes for anybody's personality, you know, not just masculinity. But that's just my food for thought on it. Where are you now with all this stuff? Do you feel like you're pretty comfortable and set in where you are as you know, as a man in this world?
yeah, 100%, man.
I love that.
I would also add to it that I think the terms like masculine and feminine traits, I'm not sure if they're that useful,
Mm,
because like if we're like, oh, this trait is feminine and I identify as male, then that's saying like, oh, I identify with a trait that maybe I shouldn't identify with according to my gender. And I think actually like we should just think about like good and bad traits to have.
sure.
Like, why is
Mm,
it that leadership should be like a masculine trait? That doesn't make, like, there are some incredible female leaders.
yeah.
Are they less of a woman because they're leading? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure whether those kind of gendered traits are such a good idea.
That's actually true. Maybe we should get away from them going forward, don't you think? That's like a
Yeah.
something that we should just talk about a little less, right? Maybe it's not masculinity and femininity. It's I don't even know if I'm saying that word right, but maybe it's just like we are the way that we are. I think the world's going in that direction anyway, given every circumstance where the world is right now. People are kind of just owning who they are and how they feel in a authentic and vulnerable manner, which is really nice to see. You know what I mean? Especially during the pandemic, you start realizing life's a little short. It's kind of why we started this podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I love that.
100%.
I think that when all of us continue life in general, music plays such a big part of that. That's why we wanted the four of you guys on this month. I think it's a beautiful thing to listen to music, jog to music, shop to music, work on your laptop to music. I played Freedom right before this, and it gets you in like a mood. You know what I mean? It's cool. Music's like a universal love language. And I'm sure you've heard that for so long. How do you want to impact people with your music? I know it's always more often than none for you, it's storytelling through your personal experiences, but as other people are starting to listen to your albums and I guess like EPs and your singles, whatever debuts, what's that mission of yours?
I really want to put across optimism and hope. But I also want to talk about some of the things which we, struggle with as well in life.
Yeah.
And for example, that could be the things like male suicide, like with Less of a Man. Like that's something which I hadn't talked about before. It's not the most like bright and sunshiny song. There's an element of humor in some of the lyrics. Like for example, there's if I hate being on my own and I ugly cry to Bridget Jones, does it make me less of a man? Like things like that, which are not the most serious lyric. But I'd love to talk about things which are real and affect me and other people I know. But try to come at it from like a really positive, optimistic point of view.
I love that. We don't have enough of it, don't you think? I think people are always saying that we should have more optimism and positivity and hope, but I'm asking almost every guy on this podcast now. Like every time we've recorded with you guys, I'm like, God, what's your definition of that? How do you actually want to put it into action? For you, Zach, how do you want to put optimism and hope into action? It's going to be through music, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's through music, but it's also through any interaction you have, any conversation you have, trying to be positive and optimistic and focus on the positive. Because I think in any situation, whether that's a conversation or an Instagram story you do, there's always the option to focus on things which aren't good and how things aren't going to get better in the future, but at the same time there's always the perspective of there's positive stuff to focus on and uplifting things that are happening in the world.
I read something the other day too. I think it was on Instagram, and it was an article that was pretty much sharing with folks that it's okay to be happy and it's okay to be in a positive state of mind. Whereas some people nowadays, depending on where that other person is, like on the receiving end, I mean, you and I are very bubbly and smiley, I can already tell. And when we give that out, depends on who that person is, again, like on the receiving end and what they might be going through at that particular moment on that day. But I've gotten it before where it's like, God, you're always so happy and da 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 da. I'm like, there's not an issue with that. And oftentimes I would rebuttal and be like, fuck off, because like just because we're happy and we're in a good place mentally and with positive energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're just trying to show it off, right? Hopefully trying to share it off instead of show it off. Dude, I love this. Do you have plans to come to the United States? I was going to ask you.
I mean, I had plans. At the moment, it's quite difficult for people in the UK to actually travel to the US at the moment. I don't think you're allowed in. Well, I don't think we're allowed in. Sorry. I think you guys can come here, but we can't go there.
That's stupid.
Even with like a work visa, it's difficult to get in.
I think there's too many steps. But plans to come to the US with regards to music and career for you, is that something that you want to do?
I'd love to, yeah. Like I'm like mainly influenced by soul music, and soul music is like America is an incredible exporter of soul music.
I love that.
I've been deeply affected by it. So to actually be able to perform in a place where soul music is incredible would be a dream. Yeah, I've never performed in the US in all
I
the years
remember
that I've been
reading
doing
that.
music.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question. I remember hearing that you hadn't yet performed in the US. I even thought you and Kygo were here, like maybe in Denver or LA or something, and you guys
Mm.
you were totally in Poland. That's great. I've never been to Poland. Did you like it?
I'd never
You
been
liked it.
either. I loved it. Yeah. I was there actually with Laurie. He came out
Yeah,
just to like be my friend on the road, and we went to we spent a day in Krakow, and it was so beautiful. Apparently,
I
it's like the
bet.
biggest town square in Europe, and I really really loved it. Just like the architecture, the food was so good, and actually really cheap as well.
Mm.
But like really good quality food, and a surprising amount of vegan options as well, which I wasn't expecting.
That's great. Poland. Damn. Maybe we'll just move to Poland. You start doing some music. I'll open up a small studio. Dude, how freaking cool. You're going to get to travel the world someday doing what you're doing as a musician. I've always fantasized the idea of being a musician. I can't sing for shit, not even in the shower. Some people can cover it up in the shower. I still cannot to this day. Again, why I'm so happy you came on this podcast. What do your parents think of all this? They're not musicians.
Well, my mum is very proud of me, and yeah, I love her a lot,
Uh,
and yeah, she's really supportive. Um, and yeah, it was a bit scary when I dropped out of school to do
yeah.
music. I think she was a bit worried, but she supported me 100%. And yeah, she was the one who kind of introduced me to soul music, like soul and funk
Mm.
music. Apparently, she like danced to James Brown. She was playing James Brown when I was inside her womb.
Wow. I love that.
And yeah, I never really got to spend that much time with my dad, but apparently he was a really good singer.
Yeah.
Had a kind of like Joe Cocker-esque voice. Um, so yeah, maybe I inherited some of his singing genes.
Especially through your mom's womb. That's so interesting, man. Maybe that's where it all starts for people as you're growing up and, or maybe before you're born. I've always wondered what that was, like where that talent purely comes from. Because some people tell us they're like, you can either sing or you can't. Do you think that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I actually don't know. Some people do say that, but then, like for example, I couldn't whistle about like 3 or 4 years ago, and I learned to whistle just by practicing.
Give us
So
your
it gives
best
me hope.
whistle.
There we go.
That's it, man. Look at you guys just got a nice little taste of his whistle. Bro, I love everything about this. Where I guess yeah, as we're starting to wrap this conversation, do you think somewhere in the near future, um, you're gonna want to do something like with Kygo again, or you're gonna want to produce more music like Freedom, or are you just gonna keep going one at a time, or is there a big album coming out? Like, what are the biggest projects coming up?
So I'm working on my second album at the moment, and
Nice.
probably that will get released sometime next year. I would love to work with Kygo again. I actually hadn't really spent that much time with him before Poland, but we got to hang out, and I realized like he's a very very nice person, and
Oh,
yeah, he's got a good team around him as well. And so yeah, I'd love to do some more stuff with him. Um, but yeah, I guess from me, just like I'm probably going to release maybe 3 or 4 more singles before I actually drop the album. And I really, really love the music that I'm putting out. I can honestly say that there isn't one song that's on the album which I don't like or that I'm embarrassed about, which not all artists can say hand on heart,
yeah.
because there's a lot of like kind of pressure that they might get from like their record label. But I can honestly say that I love all the music that I'm putting out, which is a real blessing.
Speaking of putting music out, then what's that process like? so we give people an understanding. I think people think that you just click release on Spotify or Apple. How does that all actually work? Through the label, through your management team, at least for in your world. I mean, I know it's probably different for a lot of artists, but through your world, how is the release of a new single or album? What's that process?
Normally the way it works is you write a song and record it. And sometimes you'll send it to management and your record label and be like, what do you think? And then they'll be like, that could change, that word could be sorry, my headphones are a bit low on battery. Sometimes they'll be like, do you want to change this? Do you want to change that? Maybe you're like, yeah. And sometimes you're like, nah, that's how it should be. And then you'll get it mixed. Then you get it produced. So the producer will like just spend a bit more time like properly going over the details. And then when it's been produced, it will be sent to a mixer who will then like tidy up all the parts and make sure that you can hear each individual part. And then it will be sent to mastering, which is then they basically make sure that it's like loud enough. So that if you're playing it on headphones or on your phone or on a computer, that you can hear it properly. And then it will be sent to either, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Music, and it'll be like, we want this song to be on as many playlists as possible. And then they'll go, all right, or they'll say, nah, I don't think we're going to put this on the playlist. And that process normally takes about 4 weeks. Wow. So yeah, from the time like a song is put into the system of like the streaming platforms, it'll take about a month before it's released.
Holy shit. You guys just got music 101. If you're tuning in right now, that's all you need if you want to write a song, release a song. I didn't even know it takes 4 months. I mean, I could say something similar. 4 weeks. Sorry, 4 weeks. Yeah. 1 month, 4 weeks. Damn. See, that's what LA brain does to you. I'm 3 hours behind where I'm used to be, and it's interesting. Dude, thanks for saying yes. Look at that. How special is it that you've had such a dope experience with your music career already so far? I love musicians. Guys like you inspire us to stay creative. One more question before you exit this little Zoom room. Isn't that stupid how we're still on Zoom? I always get so mad about this shit. I'm like, God, we could have just flown you in somewhere. Well, maybe not because you're in the UK, but eventually we'll get you in the studio with us. So this last question, if you're listening, tune in, turn up the volume, do something. I don't know, if you're in your car, like crank it up. What? Crank it up. Could you imagine if we were on live TV? I'd be fired today. That's why I like podcasting. There's like no pressure. You're talking to people. Don't you love podcasts? It's like if you were listening to this, and I hope you listen to your own episode, unless you hate your voice like me. I don't listen to any of my episodes. This last question. So with relation to music and how it's impacted your life, what's the secret sauce to being very happy with what you do as a musically talented individual? What would you say that secret sauce is? Like, so when people look at you, I think you're very happy. It seems like you're doing great. You're releasing amazing music. And a lot of it's obviously relative to your life. But then I started wondering to myself, wait, so how did he figure that out? How did he get to a place where he is happy with what he does and he's happy to influence people through that, and it keeps a smile on his face, at least from what we're seeing? So what's the secret sauce there?
First thing I say, don't give up. Because it can be really like demoralizing sometimes when you go into the studio and you don't come up with anything good, or you go on stage and you sing terribly. But if you really love what you do, don't give up. It seems really simple and obvious, but it's so true. There's definitely been times where I've thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, am I good at this? Like, is this really for me? Like, I see other people and they seem to know what they're doing, and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing at all. But yeah, don't give up. The second thing is study your craft. So if you're interested in writing songs, study songwriting and dissect what good songs are, in your opinion, whether that's Bon Iver or whether that's Taylor Swift, or
ZAK ABEL.
Or ZAK ABEL. Dissect the shit that you're interested in. And I want to come up with a third one. We like the number 3.
Use the word freedom in it so you can sing it to us.
I think just like make music in accordance to, with your taste. Trust your taste. Because all the best people are, doing what feels good to them, and people constantly return to those artists, those writers, those producers for their taste. And so trust that.
Everything you just said was so, yeah, dude. Everything you just said is so relative to life in general too, which is so great.
So.
I love that. Look at it. Don't you guys love his accent? I've loved listening to your accent, your words, your wisdom, your experiences, your music. Fucking love your music. Let's be real. ZAK Abel, dude. Well, there you have it, everybody. There he was. He came, he saw, he started talking to us, and now he's about to get out of the Zoom room. So thanks for tuning in. If you're here for the first time, thanks for clicking play. You guys keep this show alive. I think we're in the 60s now, and this is a dream come true for me, because now Zach looks at people like me and they can say, oh yeah, sure, I'll go on that little podcast of his and talk about music and my life and everything extraordinary about myself. But he did so in such an eloquent and respectable manner, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, buddy. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your listeners for listening and tuning in.